60 Minutes Overtime.
If you want to find pandas, you got to go to China. And we went to a city, a large city in China called Chengdu. And it's in the mountains, really almost in the center of China. And that is where one of the greatest animal research stations on Earth is up and running. My producer, Nicole Young,
what are we doing?
She's been working with me for something on the order of 15 years, and many of my best stories have her fingerprints all over them.
In Sichuan province, in a place called Chengdu, there's a panda reserve. It's a place that was essentially created to help save the giant panda approximately 30 years ago. It's a base that has a couple of hundred pandas, all born in captivity, and these pandas are the future for the giant panda species. And as a result, they made it a place where people could also come and visit the pandas that they've created.
Huge crowds of people were going by this window looking at the 1-month-old cubs. And we wanted to be on the other side of the window. The people running the research station said, oh no, that's impossible. No one gets into the nursery. No one gets into the nursery. So I started talking with the doctor, the veterinarian who runs the nursery, and I asked her one more time, and she said, well, I guess if you gowned up and we only took one cameraman in there, etc. So ultimately they let us in. They are very concerned, as you would imagine, about disease. So we had to gown up and scrub up almost as if we were going into surgery.
Oh my. Wonderful.
It was such a thrill, because the tiny little pandas were sitting there, their eyes closed, completely helpless.
And how old are these cubs?
1 month.
1 month old.
Over 1 month old, yeah.
And how many cubs do you bring into the world in a year?
This year is five babies.
Five cubs in 1 year.
Yeah.
And they bark, they squeak.
And the little squeak that they make was so great. It is just my favorite part of the story.
The veterinarians have an entire maternity ward where they act and mimic the touch and the feel of what a giant panda mother would do. The veterinarians will hand this baby cub back to the panda mother, sometimes 5, 6, 7 times a day, anywhere from 10 to 16 hours a day. They'll go back and forth, handing the baby cub back to the mother, and then the giant panda mother will breastfeed.
And it's pretty clear that her back is killing her at a certain point, and she picks up the little cub with her teeth, moves him over, and slumps down against the back of her enclosure because it's supporting her back. They grow up really fast. The gestation of the panda, the pregnancy, is about 90 days or 120 days. It varies a little bit, and that's why they're so tiny when they're born. But once they get growing, they grow up fast, and after about 6 months to a year, they're too big for humans to be able to handle them. And they start training them at that point because they need their cooperation.
What are we doing?
So right now we're looking at the yearling pandas. Basically that means they're about 1 year old. You can see how big they actually get, which is crazy because once they're born, they're only the size of a stick of butter. And these are about 100 kilos, so they get pretty big. You just can't help but smile when you look at their faces. They're the most adorable things I've ever seen. Hey, Scott, you ever see anything this adorable?
I don't think so. They are pretty amazing. And man, they're hungry. They eat all day long. Takes a lot of bamboo leaves to get up to a couple of 100 pounds. Really special.
The giant panda is China's national treasure. It is a symbol of all things good for China. They're very proud of the work and the efforts that they have made to essentially save an animal from extinction. It's really one of the greatest conservation efforts known to man.